Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy The Madness of Men, written by You Sure I'm Not a Robot. Mylan held his youngster's arms tight as he pushed aside a dusty screen. He sniffed and blinked slow lids as the dust floated close to his eyes. This is your naming day, the day you choose a mate, and the day you may look upon the truth. The tower was dank this eye, unused and open to cold rains that fell most days. Furniture sat unbroken and unmarked, buried only in dust of ages, where the scoured windows allowed the watery sunlight to illuminate the room. They made an unlikely pair, the grey fur of the elder and the golden shine from the youngling in the most important day. Neither of them would ever be giants, not like their ancestors, but they were stocky and as solid as the tower they stood upon. The youngster gasped at the sight outside, a window onto the hidden lands. "Uncle, what am I seeing?" Vast and empty buildings far finer anything these people lived in, strewed across the horizon. Mylan released his hold and swept his arm to encompass the twisting landscape. "Boy, this is the madness of men. Today I will tell you a true tale, as I was told it on my naming day. You will hold it in your heart until one day you stand here with a youngling of your own." The trace of bitterness entered his voice. "This should have been your father's duty, but he sought out those high and empty towers, and never returned." The two remained silent as the older man seemed in no rush to begin. The twin suns danced with the shadows as they set, the little brother casting a last brightness across the pair. Finally, the dusk passed away, and the two sat silently. Impatience took the youngling, and he snapped, "Uncle, will you speak? You talk of madness while we sit silently in the cold and dark." Mylan stretched and smiled, and then he stood and moved out onto the balcony, gesturing for the boy to join him. "Watch and see the madness for yourself." Below them, the strange tower began lighting up. Every tower began blaring strange music, every street filled with bright words of some unknown tongue. Lights everywhere, flickering, changing, sweeping the very skies. To the youngster, it looked like an army of ghosts were playing in some bizarre hell. The lights reached out towards him, and he snapped back, suddenly afraid of what madness it might hold. Mylan laughed. "Don't worry, boy. It's only lights and noise. There are other terrors that keep us away, but they do not seek us out. These are traps for those that fall to their simple spells. Build a fire and take your name, and I will tell you the true history as it was left to us." The youngling emptied his pack of wood that he had so carefully gathered for this day, and set the fire quickly. He set 2 bottles of spirits to warm and laid out the 2 small mats that would suffice until dawn. He watched as his uncle nodded his approval at each step, no matter how minor. He had heard tell of children that had brought damp wood who couldn't strike a spark, left nameless until some careless fool gave them one in the marketplace. He had kept his dry beneath his bed, much to the amusement of his mothers. Suddenly, it seemed childish compared to the light still glowing and flickering outside the window. Another burst of thought, another idea began burning in his mind. Mylan saw it happen, saw the moment the name arrived. Every child arrived with nothing but the names of heroes, the names of gods, until they saw the madness, the gift that was given by men. He pulled out 2 goblets and put them down. "So, what have you chosen?" The boy hesitated and lifted the goblet, now carefully filled with warming spirit. "I choose Miranda." Mylan raised his cup. "Son of the last light." He swallowed the warmth and reached out for the bottle. "A fine name. A pleasure to meet you, Miranda, and may the world bend beneath your feet." Miranda hesitated for a moment, allowed for the first time to return the toast. "And may the wind be forever behind you, Mylan." He drank quickly and nearly splattered his drink across his uncle. Mylan laughed. Easy, lad. We have all night, and I have a story to tell. Mylan sipped at the spirit, seeing the boy try and grow into his name. Today, you get a name, a mate, and a true history of our people. I remember watching as children played the games and entered this tower and descended boldly, named and now an adult, holding dark secrets. No childish promise made to tell all was ever honored, friendships shunned. I was a heartbroken child until I was made to understand. Miranda flushed as he remembered whispered promises to reveal all to his friends, the secrets the adults finally revealed. He realized that he had already left that far behind. Instead of answering, he nodded and sipped carefully at the spirit. Mylan pulled the rug a little closer to the fire and enjoyed the warmth. Now save your questions for the priests, as I tell it to you as I was told to me. I have questioned this story closely, as did your father to his loss. I can tell you, I find no lies. He took a sip and began, his voice becoming almost a chant. In the early days of this world, days long lost of the churning rocks of our home, arose a people. Man, that name was not ours first. It was gifted to us. The fire seemed to flicker a little more, and the shadows seemed to deepen. Man arose and claimed this world, this moon, then the very stars. They don't hide their works, as even now a sharp eye can see the strange stars they built. We walked with them, treading the very stars at their side. They loved us without condition, and we returned that love. But they were a difficult people, bickering and fighting to control all. He turned to Miranda. Lad, the stories of how they grew so great, of the forces that they fought to grow and far beyond me. They left us much, and the priests will tell you now that you are of age. The stars rose against them, seeking to strike man from the stars, and it lit a fire that wouldn't die. Never would they surrender their new skies. They feared for us, forbid us first from traveling with them, because we might be hurt, and then from shame for what they had done, what they had become. He drank a little deeper, his own naming suddenly reeled to him in a way that he had forgotten in 50 years. Then they stumbled, or some enemy overcame them. A world was lost, our birthright was burned, and they fell upon the enemy like gods of death themselves. A rage that burned worlds raged across the very stars. It was one of our people that stopped it, though we don't know how. The story is that man cried on the sound of the lost pup, and a moment of sanity prevailed. Man had loved us from the beginning of time, and now they were ashamed of what they were. Horrors, destroyers of those that had sought to crush a race of man. They could support it no longer, had found a different way. They blended with their machines and mixed themselves into vast creatures, a thing beyond my comprehension, and they pulled mankind from the universe. They built a new one, or broke into it. I was never sure. A place only for mankind with endless free skies and no one to tell them no, except for one people that they couldn't leave behind. Us. Miranda tried to follow the story. The madness outside screamed that this was true. He was about to interrupt when his uncle continued. The thing that man had become took this world with them as our new homeworld and gave us many gifts. Gifts of mind, gifts of knowledge. They cried that they loved us still and would guard us against the deepest dark. That in their madness that they had lost the simple things and instead would keep watching us. He arose and walked out to stare across the flickering ghost city. He waited until Miranda joined him and raised his eyes to the stars. They said that they would watch and wait until we were ready to join them, and we would be reunited. This is a true history of our people and the madness of men. Mylan watched as the young pup curled up in the blanket, the fire burning down to embers. A man today, when he left the tower, and a story buried in his heart. He gazed out at the rising dawn and emptied the bottle into his cup. Out there was something that used to be a friend. He hoped that it still was. End of story. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Fudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Athelia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.